Hello everyone, my name is Debora with student number 19220073. I want to present about proposal. Improving the students' mastery of vocabulary through games, a study will be conducted at MTS Tarbiyah Tondano, English Education Department, Faculty of Language and Arts, Manado State University, 2011 by Laura Dimpudus, 7311-748. Chapter 1 Introduction. Background of the study. Learning English is very important because English has become an international language which is used by most communities in the world. Many countries use English as their second language. In spite of the difficulties in studying English, it is worthwhile to study the language because it plays a very important role in almost all fields of life such as communication, commerce, economy, politics, education, science, technology, and so on. In Indonesia, English is not considered as a second language, but English is a foreign language. English is also called as the target language that has to be taught in school in today's Indonesian curriculum. Therefore, the student is hoped to increase their ability in English. One technique that was used by the teacher to increase the student ability in English is games. Through games, there are so many advantages for students and teachers in learning process. The student can be more motivated and challenged. Games provide language practice in various skills of speaking, listening, writing, and reading. One of the aims of teaching English is to encourage students to be able to understand English words which they might find in their environment. In fact, students often find problems in learning the words. So it needs more teachers' attention to make the transfer of the vocabulary process easier to grasp and more fun to learn. To do this hard job, teachers are hoped to have ingenuity in teaching by using any kind of teaching aids that already exist in their environment. One of those aids is using games. The writer chose games because games help and encourage many learners to sustain their interest and work. With games, students can have a lot of fun and get rid of their tiresome during the lesson. Based on the background above, the research entitled Improving Students' Mastery of Vocabulary will be conducted to see if games can improve the mastery of vocabulary. Number 2 is research problem. The student cannot master English well because they are lack of vocabulary. The lack of motivation. Games are one effective and interesting technique that can motivate and challenge the student interest through improving the student communicative competence. Through games can improve the student mastery of vocabulary because vocabulary is one of the language components that have to be taught to the students in learning a foreign language. 3. Reason for choosing the topic. Teaching vocabulary through games is effective technique. Using games brings so many advantages for student and teacher. The researcher enters using games when teaching in the classroom. Number 4. Purpose of the study. To find out whether the using games can improve the student's mastering of vocabulary. Number 5 is basic assumption. Games activities can increase the student's mastering of vocabulary. If the teacher is using games in the classroom, the student mastery of vocabulary will be automatically increased. Mastery of vocabulary is very important because without mastery of vocabulary, students cannot increase their English competence in listening, speaking, writing, and reading. Number 6 is research questions. Can teaching vocabulary through games improve the student's mastery of English vocabulary? Number 7 is hypothesis. In teaching and learning, vocabulary through games can improve students' mastery of vocabulary. Number 8 is significance of the study. Number 1 is as an input data for the English teachers about the using games in the classroom and the importance of vocabulary in teaching English. Number 2 is to motivate the student to increase their vocabulary. Number 3 is it is hoped that the study will contribute or would be of any value to other students in conducting further research of the similar topic. Number 4, directly the writer's knowledge can be developed by investigating the topic. Number 9 is scope delimitation of the study. This study is delimited of the use of games in improving the students' mastery of vocabulary in the second grade of students at MTS Tarbiyah Tondano. Clearly, the writer will only discuss the role of game is in helping students learn vocabulary. The writer delimited games into English games such as handman game, guessing games, word focus games, and treasure hunts. Definition of terms. Game activities. Games also help the teacher to create context in which the language is useful and meaningful. The learners want to take part, and in order to do so must understand what others are saying or have written. And they must speak or write in order to express their own point of view or give information. And then vocabulary. According to Huyen and Nga, in order to communicate well in foreign language, students should acquire an adequate number of words and should know how to use them accurately. Next, chapter 2. The first is teaching. Teacher plays an important role in teaching learning process. In teaching English as a foreign language, the teacher needs to vary way of teaching in order to get the students' interest and attention to the lesson. In teaching learning process, there are some factors which can influence the successful goals in the school. They are curriculum, materials, method, teachers, student, and the technique. Richie started that teaching may be considered to be basic to all the other professions are made possible through the work of teachers in elementary and secondary school, college, and university. Furthermore, Brown stated that teaching is showing or helping someone how to do something, given instruction, guiding in the study, or something providing with knowledge. Causing to know or to understand teaching is building and facilitating learning, enabling the learner to learn, setting the condition for learning. It means that teaching is a systematic way. Teacher as an organizer should be creative to make learner interested in following the subject. Number 2 is vocabulary. Vocabulary is one important aspect in learning foreign language. Without a proportional amount of vocabulary, anyone will get trouble in her speaking, reading, listening, and writing. Without a shred of doubt, the writer said that the acquisition of vocabulary would help people in gaining, understanding, and also in changing the process of knowledgeable transferred for a better life. Indisputable, the changes for progress or success in any kinds of fields like computers, technology, economy, politics, tourism, and educational increase with the size and application of vocabulary. Vocabulary plays important roles in mastering English. Rivers in Nunnan state that vocabulary is essential for successful study on the second language. Wilkins in Thornbury sum up that without vocabulary nothing can be conveyed. Vocabulary refers to all words in the whole language used in a particular variety. According to Harimukti Krista Laksana, vocabulary is a component of a language that maintains all of information about meaning and using word in a language. Number 3 is games. Games also help the teacher to create context in which the language is useful and meaningful. The learners want to take part, and in order to do so must understand what others are saying or have written, and they must speak or write in order to express their own point of view or give information. According to Jeremy Harmer, games are a vital part of a teacher's equipment, not only for the language practice they provide, but also for the therapeutic effect they have. They can be used at any stage of a class to provide an amusing and challenging respite from other classroom activity about their English class. Number 4, the types of game is hangman, guessing games, and word focus games. Hangman game is that the students play on groups. Before start the games, teacher explain how to play the games. After that, teacher divide the student into two groups. The students must guess the word. Is that A, I, U, etc. And if the word they guess is false, teacher make on the board the picture people hang. Next is guessing game. Guessing game can be plainless ways to develop or win for any numbers of concept. Guess what I am or guess who am I. For example, can be used to teach about animals, professions, or people in different age or groups: baby, child, teenagers, young adult, middle-aged adult, and elderly person. Guess what I'm doing? Now, next is word focus games. Games that using word to see how many other words they can make from them. For example, the following words can be made from the word teacher: ear, her, teach, reach, cheer, each, here, here, arch, tea, eat, and so forth. An alternative activity is to have teams of students see how many words they can make from a letter grid, such as the example. Students must move along the connecting lines without skipping any letters. A single letter cannot be used twice in succession, but can be returned to if there is an intervening letter. For example, regret is acceptable, but great is not. Next game is treasure hunt. A treasure hunt is favorite game among second language learners. It allows them to work cooperatively in a group effort to find items required. The following steps is 1. Divide the class into groups of from 3 or 6 members. Number 2. Give an identical list of treasure to each group. Number 3. Read the items aloud for children or less proficient students to make sure they understand the vocabulary. Number 4. A time to limit should be given. Number 5 says go to indicate when the groups can begin their search. Number 6. At the end of the time limit or when the first group returns, everyone gets together to check each item. Giving points. 5 points are suggested. For each completed item, points are taken away for uncompleted ones. Next is why game activities. There is some reason why activities in teaching learning process game are very important in teaching English as a foreign language. According to Andrew Wright, David Petrich, and Michael Buckby in their books, Games for Language Learning, Cambridge University Press, language learning is hard work. Effort is required at every moment and must be maintained over a long period of time. Games help and encourage many learners to sustain their interest and work. If it is accepted that games can provide intense and meaningful practice of language, they must be regarded as central to a teacher's repertoire. They are thus not for use solely on wet days and at the end of term. Next is the use of game in developing mastery of vocabulary. Many experienced textbook and methodology manuals writers have argued that games are not just time-filling activities but have a great educational value. W. R. Lee holds that most language games make learners use the language instead of thinking about learning the correct forms. They are highly motivating, entertaining, and they can give shy students more opportunity to express their opinions and feelings. Next is Chapter 3, It's Research Design. In this research, the writer would like to collect, process, analyze the data to get conclusion of the research. This research is called quantitative research because it will use number or statistic. In this research, pre-experimental design with one group pre-test and post-test design will be used. Pre-test is the test which given to the students before the treatment. The post-test is given to the student after the treatment to find out the student's achievement. Butler stated that experimental studies are those in which the investigator deliberately manipulates some factors or circumstances in order to test the effect on some other phenomenon. Number two is population and sample. Population. Population is the area in which you are trying to get information from. According to Burns, population is an entire group of people or objects or events which all have at least one characteristics, one common, and must be defined spatially and unambiguously. In his study, the population is the student of MTS Tarbiyah Tondano. Number three is data collection. Firstly, both the experiment class and control class were given the pretest before the lesson is begun to know the students' knowledge of the material that will be taught. Secondly, both the experiment class and control class were given the same materials but with the different techniques of presentation. Number four is instrument. The data will be collected through a test. There are pre-test and post-test. The test is arranged according to the material given. Number five is data analysis. In analysis, the obtained data, the writer will use mean score formula. The data presented in frequency distribution, computation or mean score X, and standard deviation, and the entire test can be presented on frequency polygon. Bibliography: Brown H.D., Principle of Language Learning and Teaching, New York Prentice Hall, Butler C. 1985, Statistics in Linguistics, New York, Basil Blackwell. Ersos A. 2000, 6 Games for the EFL or ESL Classroom. The Internet Test Journal, Volume 6, Number 6, Junai. H. E. and H. Farhadi, 1982, Research, Design, and Statistics for Applied Linguistics, Cambridge, Newbury House Publisher. Lee Soo Kim, 1995, Creative Games for the Language Classroom, Volume 33, Number 1, January until March. The last one is Macmillan and Schumacher, 1944, Research in Education, Boston Little Brown and Company. The last one is Richie R. W., 1912, Planning for Teaching, An Introduction to Education, California, Department of Education, St. Mary's College. So I think that's enough from me. Thank you very much for watching my video. I'm Catherine Debora saying bye.